networking knowledge. I'll share what I learned in my past few years of experience. So it will help you to build your career in future. Maybe who are trying to come to a network or security field. Okay. So today we will discuss basics of network and the security concepts. If anyone want to ask some questions, please unmute your audio and you can ask a question. So say your name first and you can ask if you have any doubt. Okay. So I'll share my screen now. Meantime, I am going to in few slides I am going to explain practical sessions. So at that time, while logging into my switches or firewalls or any of the routers or any device, so I'll stop the presentation and reshare once I logged into the device. Okay.
And also I request the participants to have the interaction, because this is a very useful session what we are going to done in a current networking field. So those are interested or those who have any queries with respect to the how to attend at the end of the session, you can be asked for the presenter how to get prepare well for the networks and what are the things we need to be study. And also please turn off your videos once again. I'm requesting, because to run the smooth session.
Yeah, if you are on video, it will consume more bandwidth. Please turn off your videos, be on your audio, and mute it for time being. If you want to ask any questions, you can unmute and ask. Shall we start?
Yeah, Mr. Anil Kumar, you can take over the session.
Yep. Thank you. I think you are able to see my PPT slide, right? Hello?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನಿಲ್ ಕುಮಾರ್, ನಿಮ್ದು ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
Now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So today we will discuss basics of networking and security concept. Okay. So someone is not muted, so I can hear some children's voice.
Please, participants, please mute your microphone.
Okay. Basically, we know there are for our knowledge, we know there are two types of networks. Things are there. One is a telecommunication network. Another one is a computer networks. So today we are going to talk about the computer networks. But without telecommunication network, so we can't run any computer networks. Okay, so you are using mobile phones, computers, internet. Now today we are dependent completely on internet. So if you have a mobile, if you don't have internet, so we can't spend time, right? So even this quarantine time, so in lockdown time, so we can't be there. I mean, we can't spend our time, we can't pass our time without internet, right? So I'll explain how the network works, how security concepts involved, how few attacks or any attacks will happen. So how we'll mitigate that. So I'll give brief introductions about that. Okay. So basically in the network, there are many types of network types are there. Many types are there. So LAN, WAN, PAN, SAN, VPN, so many network types are there. So in computer network, we'll look into the LAN, WAN, and the PAN. Sometimes SAN, also VPN. VPN, I'll explain the below slides because it comes under security part. Okay, LAN is a local area networking. So if you take your college as an example, your internet lab have many computers. It's connected to a switch. So within that network, we'll call it as a LAN. Okay, so if you are connected your computer into the internet, that part, your computer part will, I mean, your internet lab will call it as a LAN part. Where the internet link is terminated, we'll call it as a WAN part. So connecting a multiple LANs is also called as a WAN. Okay, so on the PAN is connecting your computer to the other device, like by using infrared or a Bluetooth. It's a personal area communication. So it's a very small area, small range of communication, PAN. So WAN is a wide range of communication where connecting a multiple LANs, like you have ATME college in Mysore, you have ATME college in Bangalore also. So how we will connect these two ATME colleges for get the connectivity? So it will comes under the WAN. So within the organization, so whatever you have computers connected to the network, that is called as a LAN. So you got an idea what is LAN, WAN, and the PAN. And for fastest network, where we'll use some SAN also, storage area network. And there is one more type of networks are there, that is the MAN, metropolitan area network. There is a large geographical area connecting multiple WANs. Okay, so basically, there are two models are there in computer networks for design perspective. So suppose I'll take an example. I am a manufacturer of Dell. So someone is manufacturing HP, so laptops or computers. So if Dell is not communicating with HP, so HP will communicate only with HP. If I'm designed like a Dell will communicate only with the Dell, so that will not use. So it will fails in the market. So for this, to overcome that, so there is a standard organization, international standard organization. They have set some procedure or protocols that should be everyone should maintain some standard operations procedures. Okay, so on that they have built OSI model, the open system interconnection model. So this open system interconnection model have segregated or bifurcated into 7 layers. So already you know, if you read about data communications subject. So in 1970 they have introduced this OSI model. So all the physical devices, retriever translators, transducers, electronic equipments, the network interface cards will comes under physical layer. And sorry. So each layer have its own functionality. So if you take a physical layer consists of an hardware equipment where your passive elements and the active devices will comes in this part. So physical layer is mainly used to translate your data into the bits and transmit into from source to the destination. Okay, so data link layer again, it is also some devices will come in the data link layer, like switch. Switch is the main device in the data link layer. Even in switch also we have two types of switches. One is manageable and unmanageable switches. The manageable switches, you can configure it how you want. You can configure virtual LANs in the switch. You can do multiple things on switch. Switch is used to identify only the MAC address or physical address. In the below slides, I'll show what is MAC address. So without addressing types, we can't communicate. Okay, and this data link layer divided into 2 layers. One is a media access control layer. It supports for a physical layer, where the media is nothing but your copper wire or a fiber optics or your RF media, electromagnetic media. So how your data transfer, it will support for that. Means some protocols in the data link layer should support to network layer and the physical layer. That's why we have divided into media access control layer and the logical link control layer. Media access control layer will support for a physical layer, and the logical link control layer supports for network layer. Okay, and the network layer, in network layer usually we'll use routers and the firewalls. Actually firewalls will work on all the layers, we'll call it as, but we can take an example. A best device in the network layer is a router. So router in network layer, we'll use one type of address called IP address. Without this IP address, no communication will establish. And in network layer, we have static and dynamic routing protocols. So to identify the best path among the multiple paths to the destination. Okay, so we will discuss a few protocols later. And the transport layer here, it is end-to-end delivery. It will give end-to-end delivery and the reliability. Reliability means when you transmit the data, or if you are sending a data to any device, so you need acknowledgement. So saying that, yeah, data is transferred, have received that. So you need acknowledgement for each packet or each data. And the session layer is mainly for inter-host communication. So it will maintain the session. So once the session end, it will finish the connection. It will terminate the connection. If you want to reset the connection, the session layer will handle that. And the presentation layer will represent the data representation, like ASCII, binary coded decimal, text. So if you are using image, JPEG, MPEG, like that. So on application layer, all the application layer protocols, if you are using any applications like HTTP, HTTPS, Telnet, DHCP. Suppose if you are browsing at google.com in the browser, so that will come, and either maybe it will use HTTP protocol or HTTPS protocol. So that part will handled by the application layer.
Chandra.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, and the earlier we are using OSI model as a 7 layers. The later on these application presentation layer as combined together as an application layer, as in a TCP model or a TCP suite. Why we are calling a TCP suite or a TCP stack? Because so multiple protocols are defined to make a communication. So multiple protocols will work together to establish the communication or to transfer the data. So that's why we made it as 3 layers combined together as an application layer. And the transport layer in the TCP model as kept as it is, because it's a reliable, because it has to give the reliability for your data transmission by giving an acknowledgement. Some protocols are there. Some protocols will give acknowledgement. Some protocols will not give an acknowledgement, like TCP and the UDP. TCP is a transmission control protocol, so it will give an acknowledgement for each data delivery. Means data is delivered to the destination. And UDP we want UDP also. UDP is the fastest communication protocols. Few protocols it will use to establish the communication, but it will not give a proper acknowledgement. UDP it use a datagram protocol, that is. And network layer in the TCP model, we'll call it as internet layer. So IP is the main, logical address or IP address is the main functionality of the network layer or internet layer. And data link layer and the physical layer in the TCP model is combined as network access layer, or we will usually call it as access layer. And we have a data representation in the each layer. I will also call as PDU, protocol data unit. If you come to a physical layer represents data as a bits. In data link layer, it will be a frame. I'll show you how it will be. Why we'll call it as a frame. And in network layer, we'll call it as a packet. And the transport layer, we will call it as a segment. And other layers, as usual, the data will be as a data. Okay, I'm moving to the next slide. So we'll discuss details of each layer in the next slides. Okay, most of the people, you don't know what is a physical layer devices. So if you look at this slide, you can see Ethernet NIC card. So if you can see in your laptop backend, there is a port. You can see this kind of port backend. So this connected to some printed circuit board with some ICs and devices. So it for the communication. So this device, when in 1970 when the computer networks evolved, it designed for around 3 Mbps. Today we have achieved to till 40 GB, 80 GB, 100 GB. Okay, so this port is a copper port. We will use a copper cable. So below is the cable you can see. So if you go to your internet lab, you can see some cable is connected to your CPU at the back end with like this. So we'll call it as an UTP, unshielded twisted pair. So it's a cabling standards. So we'll use multiple cabling standards: Cat5, Cat6, Cat6A, Cat5E, Cat7. Today we will use Cat6 and Cat7 because the speed and the bandwidth on that copper media is high. So we are achieving around 40 GB on copper. 1 GB to 40 GB we have achieved on the copper. And the second one is optical NICs, optical fiber NIC. A NIC is nothing but network interface card. So usually this optical fiber NIC card will be there on the switches. Later slides I'll show you that. So in front on this NIC card you can see something is connected, plugged into this port. This is called optical fiber module. So this fiber module, I think we will study in optical communication regarding multimedia and the single media fibers. So you'll get to know. So we will use both in computer networks. We will use both for shorter range communication. If it's around 500 meter, we'll use multimedia. If it is more than 500 meter till 2 kilometers, we will use single mode fibers. Okay, so some modules we will use and for optical fiber communication. So to connect this, we will use this yellow color cable. So this is an optical fiber patch cord. The back end also it will be like this. So you'll plug one device to another device. As here, if you compare to this NIC card and this NIC card, optical fiber will give a more speed as compared to this. Okay, and in physical layer, earlier days we are using hub. Hub is a small few port device. So it works on CSMA bar CA and CSMA bar CD. So nowadays we will not use this hub because it will. I think you read about the collision and data transmission. So a lot of collision will happen because if you connected 5 computers, if one computer want to send some information to or some data to another computer, so this hub will broadcast it. So at the same time, another computer sends the data. So both data will be collide, and until that jam clears, so another computers in the hub has to wait for its time. So it will continuously happen on this hub. So hub is, we are not nowadays we are not using the hub on computer communication. Instead of hub, we'll use a switch. So next I'll come to that part. And earlier days we'll use cable modems also. You people have a cable TV connection. The copper back end, some jack will be connected to the cable. Some cables will be run, and in between some tap will be there. So they will pull one cable and connect to the cable to watch the TV. So with that cable networks only, earlier days we used to get the internet connection. It will be not much faster. It will be very less, with maximum of 5 to 10 Mbps you used to get. So another one, nowadays we are not using these two. So rare cases we will use this and the wireless NIC card. So this is actually an external antenna NIC card. So our laptops and all have wireless NIC cards, network interface card. So nowadays we'll not use these external kind of antenna. There will be inbuilt antenna devices will be there. There are many standards are there in wireless networks also. ETNA 2.11 we'll call it as an IEEE standard. ETNA 2.11a, ETNA 2.11b, ETNA 2.11g, N, AC. Currently we are on AC. Currently implemented technology is AC. So ETNA 2.11a will support around 54 Mbps, but it's off duplex. 802.11b will support for 20 Mbps full duplex. 802.11g will support 54 Mbps full duplex, and 802.11n it supports 154 Mbps full duplex, but for both 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz. We have two wireless standards also. I mean, in India we will use 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz in wireless. So all our mobile devices, you can see if you take the data sheet of the mobile, you can see the wireless speed, whether it's designed for 2.4 gigahertz or a 5 gigahertz. If it is,
15796. Thank you.
hello.
Hello.
Someone's asking something.
Yes, any queries? Any questions, you can raise your hand, or else you can ask by unmuting your microphone. If you have any doubts, please do ask.
Okay, we'll continue.
Anil, 1 minute. Can you please hide this notification that is stop sharing? Next to stop sharing, you have button hide, right? Can you please hide that?
Yeah. Sorry.
Arpita, can you go on mute? Yeah, thank you.
So if you want to see these devices, you can go to your internet lab and ask who is managing your internet lab. There will be some switches, some devices, some internet links will be connected. You can ask them, you can see physically, and you can get to know how the devices are connected in the physical layer. Okay, so I was explaining, okay, 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz, you can see in your mobile devices also. So nowadays, all our laptops are designed for both 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. In 5 gigahertz, speed will be less. In 2.4 gigahertz, in 2.4 gigahertz, speed will be less. And in 5 gigahertz, speed will be more. And nowadays, an N radio, we'll call it as a radio. N radio, I mean, in 802.11n, we have achieved around 450 Mbps speed. Current technology will use 802.11 AC, that is support 1.33 Gbps, and theoretically, practically it will support 876 Mbps. So I'll move to next slide now. Have any questions? Yeah.
Chandra sir, yaradru unmute madidre you can mute it, so we won't be disturbed actually.
Okay, I will do one thing. I will mute all. Hello. So Anil, can you unmute your microphone now? Only Anil sir can unmute your microphone. Yes. Okay.
I think now you are able to see the screen, right?
Yes, screen was visible. So please.
Okay. Yeah. We'll come to a second layer, that is data link layer. So I already told a data link layer is divided into two subparts. One is a logical link control layer, which supports to the network layer. Another one is a media access control layer. So it supports for a physical layer. So while designing a network, we will use this symbol as a switch. These are the physical devices how we will use on the network. So these first two are 24 port switches. Maybe one is PoE and another one is non-PoE. PoE is nothing but power over Ethernet. Power over Ethernet devices will use to connect the access points. I mean wireless access points who need power. So you will place your wireless access point on the ceiling. So where you can't put a power adapter or anything on the ceiling, right? So at that time the device need a power. So we will connect that access points are a wireless device to this switch with a power over Ethernet port. So it will get the power and the Ethernet from the switch port. So you can see in this image, the last 4 ports are fiber ports. The first 24 ports are copper ports. We'll use copper cable. I think already you saw this. We'll use this cable to connect from computer to switch. And for the last port, we will use this kind of cable. with the fiber modules. I already told multi-mode fiber and single mode fiber modules will come. So we'll use that. It will be a bit cost more, but if you want more speed, they'll use that. So usually enterprise network, they will prefer fiber link as a to get the better speed. Okay, and we have below, it is a 48 port switch. So to reduce the number of switches in the network, suppose if you have 1,000 seats in an hall, so if you want to put more switch, it will consume more area. So we'll use 48 port switches. Also, nothing a difference, but switches are the fastest devices in the network because switches are works on hardware address. I mean physical address. Okay, and this symbol is bridge. So switches will also call as a bridge if you connect one switch to another switch. So here I'll explain few protocols in the later slide. Just see if you nobody has didn't saw that switch, how the switches will be. So your computers your all network computers will be connected to these kind of devices. These are the intermediate devices in the network, but it is the fastest device in the network. Okay, and in the data link layer, we will discuss a few protocols. So as I said, data link layer is divided into a logical link control layer and the media access control layer. So logical link control layer is used to communicate the upper layer called network layer. So for this, I mean, data link layer, in the data link layer, it learns the computer hardware address, physical address also, and the computer IP address, logical address also. So to learn that hardware address and the IP address, we will use logical link control layer and the media access control layer. Okay, so to learn the address, whether it's an IP address or the MAC address, we will use address resolution protocol and reverse address resolution protocol. I'll tell you in detail how address resolution protocol and reverse address resolution protocol works. You know already in the OSI layers, there will be an encapsulation will happen on encapsulation and decapsulation will happen on the each layers of the OSI layer. Encapsulation is nothing but adding an header and the trailer in the each layer. It protocol information, her address bits, CRC. So few layers will have the header and few layers will have the trailer also. So usually data link layer is mainly responsible for CRC codes. So usually a trailer will be added by the data link layer, because all other layers will add headers, but data link layer will add a trailer. The trailer contains a CRC codes, means cyclic redundancy code. In information theory encoding, you may read that in future, or you already read about that. So to find the error in the data, so that CRC codes will be appended on the data link layer, and it will be transmitted to a physical layer. To transmit that physical layer, it will use a media access control layer by using the hardware address. Okay, and in data link layer, as I said, how we will use CSMA bar CD and CSMA bar CA also. So for this, to explain CSMA bar CA and CSMA bar CD, so I'll take an example. So CSMA bar CD is a carrier sense, multiple access, collision avoidance. So collision detection and collision avoidance is a CSMA bar CA. Okay, so I'll take an example. How without physical world, there is no digital world. So whatever there in the physical world, there's few things are implemented in the digital world also. So let's take an example. There is a road with a junction. So it's a bit difficult to write it in Paint. I'll write slowly and I'll explain that. Okay, so I'm explaining the CSMA bar CA and CSMA bar CD here. So how it will be by taking an example. So just take a road. It is both sides have two-way communication. So some data, if some users they want to go here, and some users are from here, they want to go here. So this user will sense, I mean, this computer or this device will sense this is empty. I mean, this media is free, so I can go like this. So at the same time, this fellow will also sense, so this media is free, and he'll also transmit data. I mean, he'll also come. So both, when the both came here, the collision will happen here. Okay, so once the collision happens, other guys who want to go here, from here to here or here to here, so he has to wait for some time. So it will happen repeatedly in the hubs. It will happen repeatedly. So some computer will sense this media is free, it will try to transmit. At the same time, another computer will sense the media is free and try to transmit. The collision will happen multiple times. So what can be done to avoid this? So if collision is happening multiple times, your communication networks is not stable, it's not reliable also. So what he will do to avoid this? Anybody have any idea? Hello? Okay, fine. Yeah. So what we will do, we'll put a signal here. In the roads, we'll put some signals here. So he'll wait until it slot comes. So when collision is happening, it is a CSMA bar CD. The collision will be detected until the collision is cleared by the clear jamming signals. So it will wait and it will retransmit. Collision will again happen. So when CSMA bar CA, sorry, CSMA bar CD, so it will detect the collision, but it will wait. But multiple times the collision will happen and the network will be unstable. But if you put the signal here, so here on the timer, so he will wait until the timer comes. So at the time he'll use multiple slots. I mean, it will avoid your collision. So each one will have a own time to transmit his data or to go away. So that is called CSMA bar CA. I think you understood what is CSMA bar CA and CSMA bar CD. Now I'll move on to the next slide. So nowadays will not use, however, CSMA bar CA and CSMA bar CD. Earlier days they were using these very basic protocols, very first time implemented, and nowadays we have more switches are replaced these protocols. Now switches will work on spanning tree protocols. So I'll explain the spanning tree protocol also. I have not mentioned here. Before that, I'll explain PPP protocol. So when you are connecting one computer and another computer, we'll call it as a point-to-point communication. So by using the switch also, if you are connecting multiple devices, so one computer, if it's connecting to another, communicating to another device by using this protocol, PP protocol. There's one more protocol. If you got a broadband connection to your home, if you can log in and see, they will use PPPoE protocol, the point-to-point protocol over Ethernet. So there will be some server, it will give some internet bandwidth allocated to you, and that server have enabled with the point-to-point protocol over Ethernet. So he will place one broadband router on your home and he will enable that protocol. So that protocol will communicate with the server and get the internet access. So this works on the data link layer. So address resolution protocol, reverse address protocol, I will explain later. Now I'll explain in the data link layer, I mean in the switches. Nowadays we are using switch. So there's one basic protocol need to explain, that is a spanning tree protocol. So spanning tree protocol means it's used to avoid the loop and the collision in the network. Okay, so you are, let's take an example. There is a two switches. Okay. So just take, this is a 24 port switch, both are interconnected, and one switch have one computer. The other switch also have one computer. Okay, this computer wants to communicate to this. Right now, if the traffic comes to this switch, there is no loop. So it will transmit the packet to this device. It will communicate to this. Suppose if I put one more cable connection to this port, I mean, between these switches, it will create a loop. The data will come from this port and it will go here and it will broadcast here. Again, the same data will come here also and it will go here. So meantime, some data will also come. So means switches will do a broadcast because this machine is not connected on the same switch. If it's in the same switch, this computer knows this is connected some port 1 and this other computer maybe is connected to some port 2. So it may know the hardware address of the both device. It will communicate here itself. When you connect it to multiple switches, so the traffic will flow from one switch to another switch. It doesn't know whether it's connected to the same switch. That's why it will broadcast to all other ports. So one packet will come here also, one packet will come here also. It will create a loop here. So simultaneously, the data will transmit from here to here and here to here. It will create the loop. It is also leads to an instability of the network. So to avoid this, so they have designed a protocol called a spanning tree protocol. Okay, the spanning tree protocol works on multiple objectives. I mean, multiple things. So one is a bridge ID. So by default, the bridge ID will be 36,768. So if you take any kind of switches, if you've taken Cisco switch or Juniper switch, HP switch, whatever the switch you are taking, so by default, the bridge ID will be, I mean, the switch will also collect the bridge. So the bridge ID is designed to 36,768. So you can change this one manually also. If it is a manageable switch, you can reduce this or you can increase that. So it works on the lowest bridge ID. So if you're taking both switches, by default, both switches have 68,768. This switch is also 68,768. So both have the same priority. To avoid this, they have introduced one more concept called MAC address. So each devices have a MAC address. Later we will discuss more about MAC address and IP address. So each manufacturer have some address and the serial number. So this device let's take this device MAC address ends with 1, then this device MAC address ends with 2. So 1 is less as compared to 2. So this will elect as a bridge ID. This switch will elect as a master switch or a root switch. So in the root switch, so next you have 2 ports connected, right? So let's say this port is 10 and this port is 20. So here also is the lowest port it will choose. So the highest port will be go to a blocking state. Not here, it will be on the other end. So this port will be going to blocking state and this port will continue for the communication. So this is a very basic protocol. If you want to study, you can learn about STP. Nowadays, we'll use rapid spanning tree, per VLAN spanning tree. If you are using multiple VLANs on the network, I think you understand the concept of spanning tree protocol. So this spanning tree protocol is to avoid the looping in the network. Even though this protocol works, if you are using a single switch, you have 24 port switch. If you knowingly or unknowingly, if you loop the 2 ports with a single cable, this will also leads to a loop in the network. So there a huge broadcast stream will be created and it will impact your entire network. To avoid this, so they have enabled STP spanning tree protocol is configured. So which is the lowest port, it will going to forward the traffic, and the highest port number will going to be a blocked state. So this, I mean, once the computer is connected to the switch, it will go some process. I mean, this computer also have MAC address when connected to this switch. So it will learn where it's connected, what is the computer MAC address, and it will maintain the table called MAC address table or CAM table we will call. So it will know the port number is 1 connected to one computer, that MAC address is this one. The port number 2 is connected to some computer, that MAC address is something. So it will maintain the table. So when you are communicating between only these switches, it will use these addresses, MAC address. It will communicate only on the MAC address. Even our wireless communication will use a MAC address for the communication. So MAC address I'll show here itself. If you open command prompt and type get MAC, you'll get the MAC addresses. So here you can't find what a MAC address for which media this MAC address is. So I'll show you that too. So let's take an example which is connected. Yeah, this is connected now. 70 and 70-41. So if you take, you go to network settings, Ethernet, change adapter settings. Here I am connected to my home broadband connection. It have one NIC card, a wireless NIC card. So that MAC address I can find here. So each NIC cards have his own MAC address. This MAC address will not change. So I think you saw that, right? So here it is F4 96 34 78 F0 41. The same you can find here. This is the MAC address. This is the unique address. It will not change. Okay, so I'll explain it later also. So when I come to MAC address, so you understand the basic protocol of data link layer. The ARP I'll explain later also. ARP, because ARP will work on data link layer as well as the network layer. And you understood point-to-point protocol and point-to-point protocol over Ethernet, CSMA over CA, CSMA over CD, as well as spanning tree protocol. So spanning tree protocol is the most widely used protocols. All the manufacturers will use that protocol. So now we'll discuss about network layer. So network layer is mainly for logical addressing, IP addressing. I'll explain the IP addressing concept. Logical addressing or IP addressing. So and it will use to find the best path among the multiple paths to the destination. If you have, suppose if you take an example from Bangalore to Mysore to Bangalore, you have many ways to come to Bangalore. So in road also we have many ways to come to Bangalore, but which is the secure path, which is the shortest path to find that you have an idea based on the distance, based on the stop, we will get to know which is the secure way, which is the shortest way. So in the network also, to find the shortest way and the best way and the secure way, so we will use some protocols. It will be a static protocol or a dynamic routing protocols. Dynamic routing protocols will use BGP. BGP is extensively used in internet service providers, and for the office purpose. Suppose if you have an office, you have office in Bangalore, you have office in Mumbai, you have office in Delhi. If you want to communicate with all these offices, you can use other protocols called IBGP, Interior Border Gateway Routing Protocol. There, and or you can use open shortest path first OSPF protocol. Also Cisco proprietary protocol is there, that is EIGRP, enhanced interior gateway routing protocols. So if you come to the network layer device is a router. So a router will use to connect the internet links, where your router will act as a gateway for your network. So usually a router will have 1 or 2, 3 ports, 2, 3 NIC cards to connect the internet link. So suppose if you have 2 internet links, you can connect 2 internet links, and 1 LAN which will connect to the local computer or local switches. So I'll explain while coming to designing part, how we will use routers, switches, how the basic designs of the networking. So these are the network router, and the firewall is also a network layer device. And we will use a router symbol as this one while designing the network. So basically In the network layer, we will use IP, and IP is nothing but internet protocol or routed protocol. To route from one, suppose if you are pinging from your machine to the Google have some IP address, right? The protocols that is called a routed protocol. It knows already the destination. If doesn't know the destination, you will get request timeout. And ICMP, Internet Control Messaging Protocol, will use a ping command, the very basic command in the network to check whether we have a communication to the destination. Okay, so I'll show you that. From opening command prompt from my machine, I am pinging to 4.2.2. It's a Google IP address. So I want to know whether I'm able to have a communication from my machine to the Google. So just I'll put ping and IP address and I'll enter it. So it will send some 32 bytes of packets and it will get the reply. So within 45 milliseconds, you will get the reply and the TTL value. So TTL value defines after how many device this IP is there. So after how many op counts this IP address is there. Okay. So if you ping to some other IP, you're not getting reply because you don't have a communication from this IP to your machine. So it will show request timeout. You can see the difference between this and this. You don't have a communication. So to check the communication, whether you have in communication within a network, is a very basic protocol that's called ICMP, and nothing but a ping protocol. We'll also use one more protocol in ICMP called traceroute. So I want to see how many opcounts are there in between. So I'll use trace. Traceroute is nothing but a small command. I mean, trace route is nothing but trace route. So I'll put 4.2.2. So I want to check how many opcounts are there in between from my machine to reach this destination. So this is my broadband gateway, router gateway. And after that is going to some IP. If we don't know where it is. After that is going to Bangalore VSNL.net. This is their public IP. So like this, it will go until it reaches to this one. This is how we will trace the path. So if you check in your machine to trace with the same IP, maybe you will get more op counts. Some users will get less op counts, some users will get more op count. That depends on the path. So network layer is responsible to find the best secured and shortest path to the destination. So I have reached to this destination within an 8 op counts. Between my machine to this machine, there are 8 devices are there. This is how you can trace. So these are the two basic protocols to find your communication, whether it's established or not. Okay, and IGMP, the grouping protocols we'll use on the router. Right now, I don't have any router to show this. And as I said, static and the dynamic routing protocols to find the best path. So, I already told BGP is extensively used by internet service providers. So it's not used by your company. So if you have any organization, let's take an example, Infosys, TCS, whatever, they will use BGP. That will be a high BGP, not eBGP. eBGP, there are two protocols again in BGP, eBGP and the iBGP, interior gateway protocol. Inside the network, he will use that. And routing information protocol is a very old protocol. Currently, most of the company will not use this protocol. It is outdated protocol. And EIGRP is enhanced interior gateway routing protocol. It is a Cisco proprietary protocol. So only the companies who have only Cisco devices. Suppose I have a branch in Bangalore, I have a branch in Pune, I have a branch in Mumbai. So I want to interconnect with these locations only for the intranet communication, not to the internet communication. I can use EIGRP. I can use OSPF. As extensively used protocols are these two. So EIGRP is Cisco proprietary, OSPF is open standard protocol. Anybody, any vendor can use this. Even Cisco, we can configure this protocol in Cisco, but we can't configure this protocol on any other non Cisco devices because it's a Cisco proprietary protocol. So this is open shortest for path first. It works on a Digitrath algorithm to find the best path. That is a protocol standard. I mean, they designed by using some algorithm called Digitrath. And here also we'll use HARP and the reverse address resolution protocol. Address resolution protocol and reverse address resolution protocols are used to check or get the IP address and the MAC address. So for any communication, let's take an example. Suppose if you have one computer here. Sorry, my writing is not proper here because I'm using MS Paint. I don't have whiteboard or external device. So this is a switch. This is also a switch. And this is computer A. And this is computer B. When computer A wants to connect the computer B, so a computer A has to do some basic stuffs. Means it has to create a frame. Okay, I'm talking about a data link layer, how address resolution protocols works. So frame. So first it will check what is the MAC address of this. So it will add a source MAC address in the table. So some MAC address it will add, and a destination MAC address. Okay, so it will add, this is my MAC address. It will get from the NIC card. I think this is a MAC address. 1 minute, I'll show you that. Yep, this is my MAC address. And the other device MAC address, it will get from this switch, because this switch will learn this MAC address and it will store, I already told, it will be stored in their table. This will also store what are the devices connected on that switch. It will store the MAC address there, and this will broadcast the packet. I want to reach this destination, so it will initially it will put FFFF for the broadcasting. Once the packet is received by this, it will add is MAC address into this frame. So by adding this MAC address of source and the destination, we will call it as a frame. So this can be done by a data link layer. So who will learn the MAC address of the computer? So someone should be there to give, I mean, to get the MAC address from the this device and this device, right? So that can be done through address resolution protocol. So these address resolution protocols, you use it to get the addresses. It's works like a postman. Okay. So this address resolution protocol will also help you to read the IP address. Means I'll show you that too. Once I config. Yeah, this is my IP address. This is my machine IP address. This is my gateway IP address. So it has to build one packet. So this IP address may be 192.168.1.1 or 1.9, and this computer IP address may be 1.10. So to learn this IP address and add it in the your frame or a packet, this address resolution protocol will do that. And reverse address resolution protocol will use when you are going to remove the MAC address or the IP address from the packet or the frame. To remove that while reverse communication also, the reverse address resolution protocol will use. From once the connection established from A to B, while B is transmitting some data to A, because A is requested some data, so for that is responding back. At that time, it will use a reverse address resolution protocol. So basically, address resolution protocol and the reverse address resolution protocol used to get the IP address and the MAC address of the machine, or IP address of the router, or IP address of the server. So this address resolution protocol works in both layers. Always remember this: address resolution protocol will work on both the layers. That's why we have divided data link layer into two layers called logical link control layer and the media access control layer. Logical link control layer is used to identify the IP address on the network layer, because IP address resides in the network layer, and the media access control layer is used to get the physical address or MAC address of the device. So that resides in the data link layer. Okay, now we'll talk about transport layer. Transport layer, I already said it's used for reliable communication, end-to-end delivery. Reliable means you will get acknowledgement. So we can take a best example. Firewall is the best example for transport layer. Router and the switches will learn only the MAC address. Routers will learn only the IP address, but the firewall will learn IP address, MAC address, and one more addressing type called a port address. I'll explain in detail in the next slides what is the use of port and port address. So firewalls works on application layer too. So usually we'll call firewalls works in all the layers. And technically, if you speak, firewalls works on data link layer, network layer, and the application layer in the TCP suite. So there are two basic protocols are there in the transport layer called transmission control protocol and the user datagram protocol. Transmission control protocol, if you're using any communication, if you use transmission control protocol, it will get the acknowledgement for the each packet. Means the data is delivered, means that your connectivity is more reliable if you are using a transmission control protocol. The most of the HTTPS web browsing traffic, it will use a transmission control protocol. Okay, and the user datagram protocols used for to identify the DNS, and if you are sending if where you don't want any acknowledgement for your data, so there we'll use user datagram protocols. Usually we'll use on a domain name server finding. Okay. And transport layer is mainly responsible for correct arrange the packet or segments in the correct order. Once the data is received at the client side, so the data will come in the random way. So some segments will be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 like that. I mean, if it is still 10, so sometimes you will receive first packet, after you will receive the third packet, after you will receive the fifth packet. So once the communication started, it will receive all the packets but randomly. So but transport layer, what it will do, it will rearrange the packet in the order. So one segment contains a 10 packet, it will receive the 10 packets in one manner. So it will rearrange in the proper order. So next, it will wait for another segment to come. So that is called windowing. You will read about the sliding window concept and all. So once your data received, so it will send it will send the acknowledgement for each packet. So once it receives the packet, it will wait for the next packet. Means that session will be wait for another session to come. That is called windowing. And reliable, I already said, you will get acknowledgement for each and every packet in the transmission. If you are using a transmission control protocol, in user datagram protocol, you will not get the acknowledgement. So this is how the connection will establish by using transmission control protocol. So you have client is nothing but your computer, and the server. Server may be your web server or email server or any other machine. Suppose if you want to move some data from one machine to another machine in your network, so first it should establish the communication. So to establish the communication, so it will use either TCP or UDP. So 99.9% of client server architecture will use at least transmission control protocol. Only when you are using a domain name, suppose if you will open a browser and type facebook.com, youtube.com, your computer doesn't know so where that facebook.com or youtube.com server resides. So at that time, so it will use to establish that kind of communication. I mean, until they get the server details, it will use a protocol called UDP. Once the server and client started communication, so it will use transmission control protocol, I mean TCP protocol. So this TCP protocol, while establishing, it will use three-way handshaking. So client means you need some request, maybe you need some data or whatever. So maybe you need to send some mails to the someone. So first it should establish the communication between the server. So first a client will send a sync packet, and that for sync packet it will send the sequence number as 1. Okay, so server will receive that packet and it will send acknowledgement for this sync packet. For sync packet also means just sync me. I want some information from you. Just kindly establish the connection to me. So server will respond, yeah, sure. For that sync packet also it will say, yeah, sure, I'll establish the connection. So it will reply saying that sync and acknowledgement, and a sequence number will be 2. So once it got a sync acknowledgement, it will acknowledge for that sync ACK. So I have established the communication. Once this three-way handshaking happened, your communication will start. Means your data transmission will start. So until the data transmission hovers, the session layer will maintain that session. Okay, so now the data transfer, everything is completed from the server. So server will respond. So I'm going to send a fin. Means I want to finish the connection because what you requested, I already sent that data. So server will respond back to saying that fin packet. The last packet will be fin packet. That once it receives the fin packet, the client will acknowledge, but for the fin packet, it will terminate the connection. Means for each and every data, for establish the connection also, it will acknowledge. Once the connection established, for the data transfer also, for each packet, you will get the acknowledgement. After that connection terminates by the server or the client, it will send a fin packet. I think you understood transmission control protocol, how this is very important in the network communication. So if you go to any interview or anything, so this is the very basic thing they will ask the questions: how TCP handshaking will work, how the data transmission will work between your client to FTP server or mails or whatever. So they will ask that question. So this is very basic protocol, but it will work on three-way handshaking. But UDP, it will not be three-way handshaking. Once the clients request the connection, server will not respond back. I mean, sometimes it will say, yeah, I have established the connection. If you started communication even between it want to terminate the connection, it will not say I'm going to terminate the connection. Simply it will disconnect the connection. Even though in the TCP also, sometimes while transmitting the data, if something happened between the media, means the traffic will go on the physical layer media. If something happens, of internet goes down or link goes down or your NIC card is not functioning properly. So after a few seconds, if you can see, so sometimes if you are downloading the packet at the end, network error, or you will need to re-download the data. So I mean, TCP reset will happen. TCP reset will happen both the side. Sometimes if you have an issue at the client end, TCP reset will done by client end, saying that TCP reset client, and the server end, if your server is resetting the connection, the server says TCP reset from the server. So connection will be re-established. So this is how a TCP and the UDP protocols works. Now session layer. So I already said session layer is responsible for managing the dialog window between the network devices. So it is established the connection. Once the connection established from the transport layer, it manages the session until it communication is over. Once the communication over, they terminate the connection. So in the session layer, we'll use multiple types called full duplex, off duplex, and simplex. Full duplex means at a time. So if you go to here, the client and the server, when it sends back when request for the connection, it sends back the communication. Means it is a full way communication. It is sending the packet and getting the reply simultaneously. It will get the reply. Okay, so that is called a full duplex. So both at a time, both server and the client will communicate. That's called full duplex. Off duplex means either one device should communicate at a time. If client is requesting something, until client requests that, server has to wait for that. Once connection is, request is completed, server has to respond back. It's a one-way communication at a time. Simultaneously, it will not happen on the off duplex. Usually, your printer also. So if you send a print, it is a one-way communication. So it will not get reply back. And a simplex is also like off duplex. It will be both the way communication, but at a time one can communicate. But in simplex, only transmission, no reception. Only one device will communicate, another device has to listen. That is called simplex. So this will be done through session layer. And restart recovery, I already said in the transport layer. So if you want to restart, if you want to terminate the connection, or if something happened, so you need to restart the session, or you need to reload the data, or upload or download the data again. So that will be handled by session layer. Suppose if you take an example, you are downloading some 20 MB of file. So 20 MB file at a time you can't download. So what it will do in the OSI layer, session layer, so it will transport layer will segment the packet based on the size. So it will be the 20 MB file will be divided into small bytes of data. So one packet will contain around by default it will be around 9,514 bytes. If you include the header, IP address, MAC address, and the port address, it will be around 1,564 bytes. So 20 MB data will be divided into 1,500, 1,600 bytes, 1,600 bytes, 1,600 bytes, like that. So if you manually configured as a jumbo frame, you can configure till 9,600 bytes. So session layer will maintain until you download that complete 20 MB file. The session layer will maintain the session. And the presentation layer is responsible for translation, compression, and the encryption. Translation means if you are downloading some data, you want to translate it to another format. So sometimes you will download the data and if you open that data, so you can't open. I'll show you that too. So by example, I'll download some file. So I'll download some 10 MB file. It's a .bin file. Wait a minute.
So what are these three files, Mr. Anil Kumar?
It's testing files you can download from your machine.
Is it available, freely available to all, or only accessible?
No, it's available for anyone.
Okay.
So I think my antivirus is blocking that. Yep. So it's a .bin file. Sometimes if you download some files also, so if you open this one, you can't open. So it will ask. So which application I want to open this? Do you want me to open in the notepad? It will translate into the notepad, text format. If you want it into Paint, it will try to open in image format. If you want to open in the WordPad, again it will be a text format. So let me try on Notepad. So how it will be. So no data there. So sometimes you will get some Chinese language here. If you are unable to translate, or if it's completely encrypted, so you can't open that file. So later I'll show you that also. Okay. So it's looking like a text file, but if you open that, nothing is there.
In Google, what we need to type that?
Test file. Okay, so the presentation layer is responsible for representing a data. So if you are hello,
Yeah, you can carry on.
Okay, yeah, presentation layer is responsible for representing a data. If your data is a text format, rich text format, ASCII, American Standard Code for information interchange format maybe, or binary coded decimal code. If you are downloading an image format, it will be on .zip, .gif, TIF. If you are downloading an audio file, MDI, MP3, MP4. If you are downloading some movies, so it contains an image also. I mean, moving slide images with audio, so it will be an MPEG, AVI, MOV format. So usually the presentation layer responsible for translation and compression. Suppose if you want to send some data, so you have 1 GB of data, you want to send that data, but if you're transmitting 1 GB of data, it will consume more bandwidth on your network. So what do you want to? You just want to compress the data. So you can compress the data by using 7-zip, WinZip, or any other zip format or compression tools that can be done handled by the presentation layer and the encryption. So encryption to secure the data by using some cryptographic codes to give the security on your data. So unknown person, if unauthorized person access the data, you should not read that. So only the person who's authorized to access, he can read that data by using this encryption. So presentation layer responsible for the encrypting the data. So this encryption and decryption will handle by using some private keys or codes. And the last layer is application layer. Application layer responsible for application protocols. Suppose if you are using a browser and typing a Google or Facebook or YouTube.com, whatever, so it will represent some protocols. Maybe it will use HTTP, HTTPS. Suppose if you have a file server in your office, all your data files are stored in that. If you want to access that, so securely, so you will use FTP protocol, and also terminal file transfer protocol to transfer the files. And for the emails, you will use SMTP, POP. Nowadays, we will use SMTP. Rare cases, we will use POP and IMAP. See, SMTP is nothing but simple mail transmission protocol. POP is a word protocol. We will use a post office. It is a post office protocol. And host configuration protocol. In host configuration protocol, earlier days they use bootp. If you are using Windows XP or Windows 97 and all, so these protocol used to handle the host configuration. I'll tell you what do you mean by host configuration. And nowadays we will use dynamic host configuration protocol. Suppose I have 500 employees in my company, so I have 500 computers in my network. So I want to assign IP address to each and every machine. So if 500 computers, if I'm going to assign statically to each machine, saying like this, I'll show you that too. So Ethernet is unplugged now. So suppose I'll open my computer and I'll go to network settings. So if I have 500 computers, if I'm going to add IP address saying that anything 1.1 2 is my 1.1 is my machine, and if I'll get with this one. So if I'm going to assign like this for 500 machines, it will consume more time, right? It is also difficult to manage if the size is increasing. So it's very difficult to manage those. So assigning IP address, going to each and every physical machine and assigning the IP address, it will take huge time. So we have a protocol, an application layer called Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, that is called DHCP. So this DHCP protocol, see if you configure, I'll show you that. I have a broadband router in my home. Let me check. Okay. My router is not accessible from it, maybe because I have connected to VPN. So I mean, you can set the range in the protocol. In DHCP, if you set from 1 to 254, if you set that range, so once the computer connected to the network, it will request, it will search for the DHCP. I mean, broadcast will happen requesting for the IP address. That DHCP server will respond to that computer saying that this is this IP I'm going to give to you. So it will acknowledge to that, and it will get assigned automatically. So the IP will be assigned to the device automatically. Once, if I think already have seen in your broadband connection, if you connect your mobile device, no need to assign the IP address manually. If you want to connect your computer to your wireless, so auto IP will be given by that broadband router. Means that protocol is enabled on the router or the server to give the IP address to your machine. That protocol called DHCP. These are the very basic protocols we'll use on application layer. There are so many thousands of protocols are there in application layers. Here in the web, we'll use HTTP, HTTPS, and DNS. DNS. So you are typing google.com. So humans easily remember the names, not the IP address. Suppose if I said 8.8.8, 4.2.2, 192.168.1.1, if I tell 10, 15 IP address, if I ask, you can't say in the harder or whatever. So it's very difficult to remember the IP address. So the thousands of URLs or thousands of things are there on the network. See, very easy to remember. It's easy to remember the google.com, youtube.com, facebook.com, snapchat.com, whatever. It's very difficult to remember the IP address. So I'll show you that. So if I say, if I do NS lookup, network service lookup or Google, so it is resolving to this IP address. This is the IPv6 address. When I type google.com, it is resolving to 142.250.67.142. So I put youtube.com. So it is a different IP. So it is very difficult to remember these IP address, right? So we have translated these IP address names into a fully qualified domain name called youtube.com or google.com or facebook.com. So if you type that in the browser saying that google.com, it will communicate to this server and it will get the response. So that can be handled by the domain name system or domain name servers. So these are the basics of application layer protocols. Okay, so we have completed 7 layers. If you have any doubt, you can ask me here. I'll go to addressing concept now. I think already I explained the physical MAC address, other things. I'll show you how it is. Anybody have any questions?
Yes, if you have any queries, please do ask. Or else you can ask at the end of the session if you have any doubts with respect to any of the networking concepts.
Yeah, so I'll continue now. Yeah, basically in networking we'll use three types of addressing. One is a physical address or MAC address, I already told, and the logical address or IP address, and the port address. Specific address in the data communication will not use. Some services we can identify through some name. So suppose if you want to identify the mail services x.25, suppose if you want to identify some telecommunication things x.500, so modems and all, v.90, vbase, there's so many things. So those are specific. That is not used by communication, just to identify that. But the first three addresses are more important in the computer data communication, computer networks: physical address, MAC address, logical address, and the port address. So we'll look into it detailed in the next slides. Okay, so physical address, first is a physical address. So physical address learned by a switch. Physical address is a permanent address. Physical address contains a two part. So it is a 48-bit or a 6-byte address. Usually we will express in hexadecimal. It's separated by a colon or hyphen. I think you have saw in my machine. It is separated by hyphen. So I'll show you that. Already I typed get MAC, so I'll type one more time. So it is separated. The first octet and the second octet separated by the hyphen. So if you take switches and all, I'll log into switch and show. So already explained about address resolution protocol, right? So I'll show you how address resolution protocol learned the MAC address in the switch. Okay, if you write show ARP address resolution protocol, just say enter. See, so what are the devices connected to this switch? It will learn both IP address and the MAC address. You can see the first is a MAC address of some device. This may be another switch. That name is this one. So it's learning from some interface. This is actually our logical interface. So like this. So when you enter show ARP, so this address resolution protocol will learn both MAC address. It will go to the physical data link layer. It will learn the MAC address of the device. Then it will go to network layer. It will learn the IP address also. Got it? Yep. So this is MAC address and this is IP address. So address resolution protocol will use. Reverse address resolution protocol will use only while communication and from server to client. I mean, the client is requested the communication. The server is responding back to the client. At that time, it will use a reverse address resolution protocol. Okay. So how many devices are connected to this particular switch? It will show all the MAC addresses. It's learning from other switches also. It will show that one here. Okay, so I'll close this. I think you understand the address resolution protocol, how it's learned here. So there, I think you have saw. So I'll paste. Yep, I copied that in the switch. So here you can see this MAC address is separated by a colon, but if I see here, it's separated by hyphen. So we have we can note. I mean, you can identify by using. I mean, you can write it by using hyphen or the colon for the MAC address. Okay, and this will be an hexadecimal format, and it is a unique. And a physical address or MAC address have two parts. One is who is the manufacturer. It will identify who is the manufacturer of the device. Okay, so another part of, I mean, first 24 bytes, it will identify by the who is the manufacturer. You can identify who is the manufacturer of that device or NIC card. The next part will be the device serial number. Suppose if I have 1,000 NIC cards manufactured, I have manufactured 1,000 NIC cards. So I can put 0.000.0.01, 2, 3, like 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, because it is an hexadecimal. So we'll identify like this. So I'll show you that too. Now I want to identify my MAC address. Who is the manufacturer of my MAC address? So I'll copy this. Find you also you can find MAC vendor. And copy your MAC address. Go to macvendors.com. Just paste your MAC address. Just say enter. So that my wireless manufacturer, wireless NIC card is manufactured by Intel Corporate. Now I'll choose some more MAC address. Maybe it is Ethernet. Proper MAC address. I'll paste this MAC address here. This is manufactured by Dell. How it will identify that NIC card or wireless card is manufactured by NIC, Dell or Intel, based on this one. This is unique. So if it is Dell, it will identify by these 3 octets. The other 3 will be the NIC card serial number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. So I think you understood this. You can identify. So any device, any MAC address, you can easily identify. So who is the manufacturer of that? Okay. And I already told it's 48 bit, it's 64 bytes of address. And FFFF, if it's using FFF, it is a broadcast MAC address. If unable to find the, suppose if one computer want to communicate to another computer, if it's not finding the computer MAC address, it will broadcast. It will put FFFF. That means in the frame, if it's put FFFF, means that frame should be broadcasted on the network. So to find the real MAC address of the device. Okay. So now we'll move to IP address. So we are speaking about logical address, physical address, and the port address. So now I'll move to IP address. In IP address, currently we are using IPv4. Now slowly we are moving into IPv6. Without this IP address or without MAC address or without port address, there is no communication will establish. So in IP address, we have number of classes. 5 classes are there. So IPv4 is a 32-bit address. So if you put 2 power 32, 2 into 2 into 2 into 2, 2 into 2 into 2, like that, if you put 32 times, if you count how much number it will be, that many addresses we have in IPv4. It will be around 4 billion addresses are there in IPv4 concept. But today we don't have enough IP addresses. That 4 billion addresses is not enough to manage our network devices. Those many devices we are using. So that's why the IPv4 is currently implemented, but slowly we are moving into IPv6. Today, I'm not going to discuss about IPv6 because it's a big, huge concept. Even IPv4 concept is a huge concept. I'll give a basics of IPv4. So it will take around 2 days to understand the IPv4 concepts. So unicast in IPv4, unicast is each machine have one IP address. If you connect to any network, each machine will get one IP address called unicast IP address. And the multicast IP address used to identify another network by communicating. Multicast means there are some reserved IP address. I'll come to the range. I'll tell you that. So it will use some IP addresses starting with 224.0.0, 5, 4, 5, 6, like that. So some protocols also specifically use this multicast address. So I already told BGP, RIP, or OSPF or EIGRP protocols. These protocol will also use some multicast address to identify the network in the, to find the path in the network. Okay, the multicast address that starts from 224, and unicast address Class A, Class B, Class C are unicast address. Okay. Again, in IPv4, we have divided into private and the public. Private IP addresses are anybody can use. In your college, if you are using any series of IP address, so that will be inside the network, not to the outside the network. And the public, these private IP addresses are, I'll tell you the range. These private IP addresses are identified within the organization. Okay, anybody can use the same IP addresses. Addresses can use in any other organizations also. So on public IP addresses are payable. It's used by service provider. When you get the internet link, the public IP address, they will provide 1 or 2 public IP addresses. For that public IP address, you need to pay a huge amount. Maybe per month or per year, you need to pay a lakhs together for the public IP. Okay, private IP ranges, the class A, class B, class C, starts with 0 to 127. Okay, starts with 0 to 126 actually. In the private IP address range, 0 to 126. So it will start from 10.0.0.002, 10.255.255.255 means 10.0.0.1, 10.0.0.2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like that. It will be ends with 254. After that, 10.0.1.0, like that it will increase. If you are using a class A IP address, you will get this much of IP addresses. It will be around 1,67,077 plus addresses. Means if we have an organization with 1,67,000 of computers, you can use this private IP range. Suppose if we have 65,000 computers, 1,000 computers, you can use in this. This also depends on this network mask. So I'm not going to give a details on that because it will get complete confusion on that. So by default, it will be like this. If you are using, as I said, IPv4 is a 32-bit. It divided into 4 parts, 4 octets. Each octet have 8-bit. Okay, so each octet value will be 0 to 255. I mean 256. So 2 power 8. It will be 2 power 8. So, but if you are using /8, so you will get this many addresses. If you are using /16, you will get this many addresses. If you are using /24, you will get 254 addresses. So these are the range 0 to 126. I'm not talking about 127. 127 is used for loopback address. But this will also consider as class A. But practically 127.0.0 to 127.255.255.255. This will used for local computers to identify the loopback address. Means once you type google.com or any IP, first it will check whether that IP address is there in your local machine. So it will write it in the loopback address. I'll show you that. Right, net stat. So what are the communications there? It will show that. Yeah, I think you can see the TCP port. I mean protocol is using TCP. You can see 127.0.0.1 with some port. So when you are trying something, so it will first look into this address. Means 127 address is reserved for a loopback. Loopback means it will be there in your host file. If you go to your computer host file, this address will be there. So I don't have administrator access for this machine, so I can't show the host file here to where it will be. You can check from your machine if you go to host file, so you can get this IP address there. Means when you are trying to communicate, your computer will do everything. So first it should create some packet. So for that, it should check in your machine whether that information is available inside the machine or I need to query to outside the machine. So for that, it will use. So that is called a loopback address. This loopback address will also use in routers also to enable that port continuously. Okay. So now, sorry. Yep. I think you understand. 0 to 126 is a private range. 127 is used for a loopback address. And this class A, class B is starts from 128 to 191. It private IP address. So apart from 10 to 10.0.0 to 10.255.255, remaining IP, if you take 11.0.0.1 or 12.1.1.2, whatever, that IP addresses are public IP addresses. So these are the private IP address. Inside your organization, you can use that. So apart from this range, if you have any IP addresses, that is public IP address. That public IP address is reserved. I mean, you need to pay for that. So each internet service provider will use. So I'll show you that what is, I want to check what is my IP. So I'll get right, what is my IP? My IP is 49.206.16.10. So this is my ISP. I mean, internet service provider provided my IP. This IP is dynamic. It's not a constant. It will change. Okay. So for this 49.206, it will come in class A. Means this, apart from this IP, my IP is 49. So this is a public IP. So any IP apart from this range, it is a public IP, except 0.0.0.0 and 255.255.255. 255.255.255 is a broadcast address. Broadcast address used to establish the communication. So broadcast means it will be one-way communication. Okay. So and class C will use 192.168.223. Sorry. 192 to 223. I mean 192.168.0.0. I think my IP address will start from 192.168.1.106. My local machine IP. I mean my router is configured for this IP. So maximum IPs you will get in this is /24. If you change this value, this will be increase and decrease. If you change it to 25, this value will be decrease. If you change it to 23, this will be double. Okay. So it's a 2 power means it's a bit, it's a 2 power value. So it will be double. It will 2, 4, 6, sorry, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. It will be increased like this. 128 like that. It will be increased. And these are the private addresses you can use. And these two addresses are reserved. So the IP address starts from 224.0 to 239, whatever, 225, whatever. Those IP addresses used for multicasting, and it is reserved. You can't use it. So some R&D department, they'll use on that. So Cisco will use 224.0 some IP address. Some protocols, if they are designing, they can use to multicast that protocol for this in this range. I mean in this class. So class E is reserved. I mean it starts from 240 to 254. You can't use. It's reserved for R&D, research and development. I think you got an idea what do you mean by private IP address and public IP address. Public IP address is not a free of cost. It's payable. Private IP address is free of cost. Anybody can use, but private IP addresses you have to use within this range. Depends on how your requirement. I think you understood this. So I'm going to port address. So even port address also. So port address is a 16-bit number. It will be decimal. And it's ranging from 0 to 65,535. So 0 to 1023 are well-known ports. Suppose if I'm using HTTP, the port number will be 8. Means if you are using HTTP, google.com with HTTP, so that port number will be appended as 80, port number 80. If you are using HTTPS, my port number will be, it's actually, it's not a physical port, it's a virtual port, it's application port. So because that's why it's works on application layer. So that HTTPS port will be 443. If I'm using DNS, my DNS application will use port number 53. If I'm using DHCP, I'll use 67 and 68. 67 for server client communication, 68 for server communication. Suppose if I'm using FTP, I'll use port number 2021. Again, 20 is used at the server. While server want to communicate to the client, it will use 20, and client want to communicate to the FTP server, it will use 21. So 99% client will request for the communication to the server, so it will use 21. So I'll show you that too. Suppose if I want to ask my access my device, okay, so I have a few protocols designed on my PuTTY application. PuTTY is an interrupter, okay, so just to communicate. So SSH, this will use port number 22. If I'm put telnet, so it will use port number 23. So telnet is not secured. So most of the computer devices, routers, switches, whatever, firewalls, they'll not use this telnet because your data will be in the text format. It will not be encrypted. But SSH, it will give encryption, but it will use port number 2022. So if I'm accessing my device, let's say 10.16, my switch, disconnected from VPN. One minute.